What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. So I've been on this soapbox for a while now. You guys have heard me on this soapbox, so indulge me for a moment. As you can see from this headline, I'm climbing back up on top of it. The 1990s favorite, The Faculty, getting a remake at Miramax. You all know how I feel about remakes and reboots, especially when it comes to some of these standalone films, even if they had maybe a sequel. But this one here, I just don't understand. I don't understand why, when it comes to the horror genre, we always have to go back to the well and continue to reboot something or remake something, especially again when it's a standalone film. Now, when you have franchises, I've always said this before, and I've openly admitted this before, like the character behind me, Michael Myers, it's my favorite horror villain of all time. I love the Halloween franchise. Now, I've said this before. Do I think all the sequels in the Halloween franchise were necessary? No. Do I think we needed to reboot it, especially when we rebooted it, remade it with Rob Zombies, and then we have like three or four, I think we have like three timelines, the anthology timeline. I think that's one of the more muddier franchises when you think about it. And we got the Friday the 13th reboot remake, which there were, to me, some good points to it, but do I think it was necessarily needed? No, I don't. I'm even with the Nightmare on Elm Street. In my opinion, that reboot remake wasn't good at all. And if you've noticed, they've never tried to go back after that one. They've pretty much just left that franchise alone for the most part, as they did with Friday the 13th after that reboot remake. It seems like Halloween was the only one that decided, let's add another timeline. And then we got the last, trilogy that we all know about: Halloween Ends, and Halloween Kills. So, Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends. Sorry, I got those two mixed, flipped around. So this here is, I think, one of those horror films, though, that has a cult following. And again, I don't necessarily think a remake is necessary. I feel like when it comes to horror, again, studios seem to always want to go back, find something that worked well, made some money, again, still has a following, and let's remake it, thinking we're going to hit on two things: nostalgia. We're going to get the original fan base or the cult following fan base back at the table to enjoy this, when I don't think those fans necessarily want this. They want to enjoy what was once been, which was I think this one came out, was it 1998, somewhere around there. I think it was towards the end of 1998, and it made good money for a 1998 film. I think this had a very low budget of like $10 to $15 million, somewhere around there, and made somewhere north of like $60 million. So it was a successful film for 1998. And if you translate that to today's money, that would still be a hit. It would still be a moneymaker. And in today's environment, it would probably, within a month of being released and making that kind of money, or even its worldwide box office at the theaters, let's say if it was 2 or 3 months. But nowadays, most films don't stay in the theaters that long before they hit digital. So if it would have made that kind of money today, it would have gotten a green light for a sequel very quickly, probably while it was even still, in theaters towards the end of its life cycle. So I don't feel like we need to keep going back to the 80s and 90s, finding something that worked, and let's remake it to see if it will work again. So when I saw this pop up, I shook my head, like, I'm not surprised. But then, am I still going to watch it? Of course I'm going to watch it. I'm a horror fan. I'll see what it's about. But do I like seeing remakes and reboots? No. So that's the soapbox for today. So again, 1990s favorite, The Faculty, getting a remake at Miramax. So let's jump into some of these details here. Most of this we know as far as it relates to the original film, so we're not going to cover off on those sections. I will put the link for this article in the description of this video below, so if you want to read through those details, if you want to refresh yourself on those from the original film, feel free to do so. But the 1990s are hot again here in 2025 with properties including Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and even Idle Hands, all plotting returns. Additionally, Variety reports today that Miramax is headed back to school with a remake of The Faculty in the works. So we're going to pause there because I can already see the next, couple paragraphs touch on the previous film as far as who directed it, who produced it, and the casting for it, so you can kind of just gaze down while I talk and see that information. But this first paragraph is absolutely right. I mean, as far as Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer, Scream, what I felt was I felt it met its need with the original films, decided to come back with a new story, but now we're finding ourselves coming back around to the original Scream, especially with Scream 7 coming out. You're bringing back a lot of the, Nev Campbell's coming back. I mean, now we have reports of Matthew Lillard coming back. That just recently came. It just recently came out. And Scott Foley now is coming back. So I mean, the biggest one for me is Matthew Lillard, which we're gonna do a separate episode on this updated Scream casting that just came out late yesterday. So I don't want to get too far into that lane, but I felt Scream it's had its time in the sun. It's over and done with. Part of me hopes Scream 7 is the final one, and we get a break from Scream for an extended period of time. Same thing with I Know What You Did Last Summer. Now I know what you did with I Know What You Did Last Summer. I have a feeling it's going to continue on even after this legacy sequel, because you're getting Freddie Prinze Jr. back, Jennifer Love Hewitt's coming back, but we already know. Freddie's already come out and said on a separate podcast that came out a couple of weeks ago, specifically saying, "Hey, we're not the leads in this film. We're pretty much here passing the torch." And when he expressed that fact very vividly, that hey, we're not the leads. The attention's not on us as far as that they're two characters. So I have a feeling one of two things is going to happen. Either they're just literally going to make a cameo appearance because the new cast is going to say, hey, these two people are still around and they dealt with this originally, 10, 20, whatever years ago, and let's go talk to them. And they're going to stumble across them, gardening in their yard or working in their garage, and they're going to go into the house, sit down at a kitchen table and have tea or coffee and show all these news clippings or go over these horror stories, and then they're going to leave. And that's going to be their cameo. Or they're gonna pop up at the end of the film, at the climax, where the killer is getting ready to take out some of the new cast, and they sacrifice themselves, and that's how their story ends. Right? It's gonna be something like that. And we're all expecting something vastly different, like what Nev Campbell's been doing with Scream, and I just don't see that happening with I Know What You Did Last Summer. Even though I can see another 1 to 3 sequels coming to that franchise. So that's my input on that first paragraph. So we have here, again, a synopsis of what the casting was for the original film. Again, came out in '98. You can see that it was a pretty stacked casting when you look at where a lot of these actors are today, or where they've been between 1998 and through the end of 2024. A lot of them have had successful careers. A lot of them are starting to make a comeback with their careers, specifically like Josh Hartnett. I mean, he went dormant for a while, and he's starting to resurge back with his career, which is good. But again, I'm just not feeling the fact that we need to go back to the well on a lot of these horror films from the 80s or even early mid 90s. I mean, this one happened to be 1998. It's one of those, far and few between that came on the end of the 90s. I think as Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer were making their surgeons. So we don't have a date on this one yet. We have no casting. We have, nothing specifics as far as that goes, but we do know it's happening. Now, once we find out more information, I think the first thing that will probably come out on this one, of course, will be is right. I mean, I think we already know who the writer is going to be on this one. I think the article did touch on that a bit here. Robert Rodriguez, who directed the Faculty back in 1998, is returning to produce the remake with Drew Hancock attached to write the screenplay. So we do have that information, but I mean, it could be at least a year before a final script is done, and then we start going into production as far as casting and all that, pre-production. And as far as casting and all that goes. So I think it's going to be a minute before we get information on this, but just the fact that we're adding now another one of these to the list of reboots and remakes, just like I said, I'll see it because I'll be interested to know, did it stay true to the original film, and was it a flop? Did it turn out to be good? But I'm not a fan of these remakes, reboots. So that's going to do it for today's horror news update. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let us know what you think about the remake for The Faculty going to be happening at Miramax. Again, I would expect this will probably be something that we either get late in 2026 or early 2027. And that's assuming it even makes it all the way through. As we know, there's times where films like this get announced and a script just can't be finalized. Things just can't be, people can't meet in the middle to move things forward, and projects get canceled. So it's very possible this could be one of those, and all this is for nothing. So again, let us know down in the comment section, and if you haven't done so already, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, we'll see you at the next one. Peace.